Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're continuing our story Pregnant and Homeless. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I highly recommend checking it out first so you can understand the story. In summary, Pregnant and Homeless is a story about a teenage girl who was pregnant at 18. The boyfriend denied the pregnancy and her mother kicked her out of the house, and instantly she became homeless. It's a tough road, and it's not easy as she learns how hard it is to have no money, no home and no help. Let's continue the story. Pregnant and Homeless Part 2. After about 1.5 days in New York, I've already received $100. New York was flourishing, or perhaps it was because everyone who walked by admired the paintings I had spread out on the ground. I've had 6 months to live on the streets, which has given me plenty of time to get better at drawing. I understand now that, as a pregnant teenager, sitting on the ground and staring at others with needy eyes was simply too much for me to handle. Then I took an art book with me and began sketching the locations I was in. I used to tear the page out and set it on the ground once I was done with a section. Oftentimes people would stop at a look, smile at work, then continue their journey. Some people will dig in their pockets and give me some coins. Some people would look straight ahead like they didn't see a pregnant teen. However, I've learned to accept people's brutality and learned how to adjust to the stares and comments. I came out on the street because everyone I know has abandoned me. It wasn't because I wanted to be out on these streets, that's what people didn't understand. I bent my head to sketch what I saw after glancing at the nearby parked car. I continued doing that until every curve and shadow looked flawless. Smiling at myself, I began to sketch the car that was behind it. I had a strange feeling that someone was watching me. I looked up to see who was staring at me, since I could feel their eyes on me. The same captivating blue eyes that I had briefly interacted with yesterday came into sight. Across the street, a handsome stranger was staring at me. It was a little unsettling to see him standing there, so I started gathering my belongings and repackaging them in my duffel bag. I got up from where I was sitting on the ground and grabbed my backpack. I ran down the road as quickly as I could. The man gave me the chills, even though I had no idea who he was, just by staring at me. I didn't want to be seen by any officials, including the police or child services. I wouldn't allow them to take my baby away from me once they put me in their care. I came to a stop at an alley, took a big breath, and waited for my body to settle down before continuing on my journey when I was unable to go any farther. I found it difficult to run because of this obvious fact. A voice said, "Why are you running? I promise not to harm you." When I raised my head in response to the voice, I saw the same captivating blue eyes that had haunted my dreams the night before. I asked him, "Who are you?" I shook, reaching for my pocket knife. He raised his hands. "I have no malicious intentions. I'm available to help." "Help?" I asked, my face frowning. "Yes, please help," he nodded. "You ran into me yesterday, and then I saw you again while sitting on the ground in Times Square. Help is what I want to do." "How can you help?" "You still haven't identified yourself to me." "I'm still looking in the side pocket of my bag for the knife." "Come have lunch with me, and I'll tell you everything," he said. I gave him a close examination. He didn't seem the kind to rape, kidnap, or steal from someone, but these days you can never be too sure. Even criminals are capable of dressing nicely. "I promise not to harm you, I swear on my mother's life. My only goal is to help you." With a sigh, I gave in. After all, we were in public. What trick could he pull with hundreds of people walking about? Alright, it makes sense, but I have a knife in my bag. If you try anything, I'll cut you. Agree? I turned aside as he approached me. You can give the bag to me. You shouldn't be carrying anything heavy when pregnant, is not good for you or the baby. I cautiously gave him my bag after seeing his sorrowful eyes. Why not let him hold it? He didn't seem like the kind of man who would take anything from a homeless girl's bag. Unless he was into vintage clothing, I thought, sketchbooks, and pencils. There was nothing worth stealing from inside the bag. Follow me. I turned to follow him when he urged me to. He would occasionally glance over his shoulder to check if I was there. I wouldn't run away from him, even if I wanted to. Not without my purse containing $3,000. I was too far along, it was all the money I had, and anything could happen. We strolled for a few minutes, before coming into a modest eatery. We sat down in front of the window. Okay? I asked as I looked into his eyes. Time for an explanation. Begin by identifying yourself and your work. My name is Udoka Olu. His strange name made me scowl. Is that your name? Raising his hands off the table, he reached into his pocket and took out his wallet. He pulled out his driver's license and placed it down in front of him. That was his real name. Your name is not common. Is that meant as a compliment? That's a compliment, I see. It's a very sweet name. Unlike Clara, my name. Everyone has that name. People also constantly make stupid jokes about it. I just started calling myself Tiffany so that those who asked would get the answer. Tiffany wasn't my real name. I was unable to prevent a little blush from coming on my face. Okay, I prefer Clara. Clara? He scowled and raised his eyebrows. My last name wasn't Clara. My full name is Clara Achachukwu. For the first time since I saw him, he smiled. All right, Clara. All right, Udoka. A waiter approached the table and asked us, what can I get for both of you today? Udoka said, an Earl Grey tea and a blueberry muffin for me, without reading the menu. Maybe he could be a regular customer. The waiter turned to me. I didn't know what to say. I looked at Udoka. I did not want to order something that would make him angry, nor did I want to order something that would be excessively costly. Despite his nicely designed clothes, I didn't mean that he enjoyed spending money on a homeless teenage stranger he met on the street. Serve her a peppermint tea and an EBC sandwich. As he placed my order, Udoka asked. I wasn't quite sure what exactly an EBC was, but I will research it. The peppermint tea was exactly what I needed. Never coffee, always mint. I wasn't a huge fan of caffeine even before I got pregnant. It would both bring you up and down. The table was silent after the waiter left, so I decided to talk. He must be employed by an organization, or else he wouldn't be sitting in front of a teenage homeless person. Who do you work for? Perhaps he was a pastor or one of those religious types with organizations. I have no employer. Are you unemployed? No. I am the boss. I own a business. I see. So, specifically, how will you help me in that case? By offering me employment? A job will be beneficial right now. I could save money for an apartment for me and the baby. He shook his head. No. Not a position. Not quite yet. It's too late for you to be employed. At this point in your pregnancy, you need to be resting, but instead, you're begging on the streets of New York. I scowled at what he said, prepared to defend. Have a look, do you? I don't mean to start a fight, but I don't think you belong on the streets as a young girl. What is your age? I lied, saying it was 20. I pretended to be that age. My personal information wasn't necessary for temporary personnel to know. Yes, he said, not believing it, but he went on. You're homeless, 20 years old, and pregnant. It's risky. That's not how you should be walking the streets. Pregnant, alone and homeless. It's risky. You shouldn't be out on the streets like that. Are you making a suggestion or just restating information that I already know? He was reminding me of stuff I already knew, and I didn't mean to come out as impolite. Things that cross my mind every day. It was not new. I stated my desire to help. That is my plan of action. By providing you with a cozy place to stay. Really? I was astounded by what I heard. If you're recommending shelters, I've been there and I don't like it. He shook his head. No, I wasn't suggesting that you remain at a shelter. After all, they're not cozy. Every minute, he piqued my curiosity more and more. Then where? Where would I live that would be both secure and cozy? With me, he said. His words shocked me. What? You can live with me. He was too composed. How could he look so at ease and ask a stranger to live with him? Are you crazy? For what other reason would he invite a stranger to move in with him? Are you working with the police, social workers, or just a person who wants a child? It just will not work if you are considering providing me with a place to live and then taking away my child. I'm fine. I'm ready to live in the street. If my baby was with me, I could survive no matter how difficult it was. If I kept drawing, I could make it through. Other homeless people who have been there for more than 10 years have spoken with me. They made it through. However, they never gave birth. I'm not working with anyone, he said, shaking his head. Not that I want your child. Had I desired a child, I would have gotten one for myself. I only want to support a homeless teenage girl who is pregnant. Why? What makes you wish to help me? I had to inquire. Everybody acts in certain ways for a reason. He needs a good explanation for wanting to help a stranger, someone who might be lying to him, or someone he knew was lying. I'd been there before. When I briefly glimpsed some feelings in his eyes, they soon vanished. I can relate to him. That is not enough information. He didn't appear to be homeless or to have been homeless in the past. He appeared to be a wealthy man, in a large mansion with servants waiting on him. How did you come to know what it's like to be in this position? It is personal. I smiled. And it's not personal to ask me to move in with you, a stranger? I could be wrong and you could be a killer. I need to know. Would that have an impact on your choice? Rolling my eyes, I responded to his absurd inquiry. Of course. You don't appear to be aware of the realities of this world. Looks are not always true. When he said, yes, and that's why I need to know your story. I assumed he wasn't going to tell me after he was silent for a short while before he started talking. When my mother was pregnant with me, she was in your shoes. Her parents were devout Christians, and she was 16 years old. She sinned, and she was the pastor's daughter. They had to maintain their status in the church, so they told her to leave. The person who got her pregnant wasn't in the church, he was a biker. So he didn't want a baby. He paused and looked out the window, then continued. She didn't have anyone to help her. She was struggling to provide for me. Someone violated her while she was pregnant with me. I could hear the emotions in his voice. He took a deep breath and continued, I lived on the streets until I was 3. I don't know how she managed to run from the law. We never stayed in one place too long, 2 days at the most. I was 3 when my mother was able to rent a 1-bedroom apartment in Harlem. She worked as a waiter until I was 23. She struggled to take care of me, and so I want someone who seems to be in the same position my mother was in with me. I don't want anything else. As I listened to his story, shivers ran through me. Would I end up in the same position as his mother? I didn't want to work in a diner for the rest of my life. I didn't want my child to be subjected to the bullying I felt when I grew up. I didn't want people calling me a prostitute because I got pregnant. I wanted a better life, and this man was offering me just that, but how could I trust someone I don't know, someone I've only seen twice? It didn't make much sense. What if I decide to live with him and he starts to come on to me? What if he changes his mind about taking my baby from me? What if he's lying? What if he's a serial killer? What if he's a human trafficker? What if he's trying to help? There were so many what ifs that I had to consider. The good and the bad. He didn't look like a serial killer, but serial killers come in all shapes, sizes, and races. He didn't look like he would hurt a soul, but people changed. I shook my head. No matter how tempting the offer was, I couldn't risk it. This baby is all I have left, and I couldn't risk losing her. I pushed my chair back. Mr. Udoka, I'm sorry about what happened to your mother and you, but that doesn't mean it will happen to my baby and me. We'll survive. We've survived this long, we can continue. He quickly placed his hands over mine. Shivers ran through me at the touch. Before you leave, take my contact information, in case you change your mind. My offer will still be open. He pulled a business card out of his wallet and placed it in my hands. I live at 100 Main Street North, apartment number 850. He released my hands and offered a small toothless smile. Take care of yourself and your baby. I looked into his beautiful enchanting eyes and smiled. Thanks. I stood from the chair, took up my bag, and walked to the door of the restaurant without looking back. Maybe one day I'll regret not taking his offer, but for today I will stick with my decision. I held tight on my bag and walked down the busy streets of New York. I'll survive. I looked up in the direction of the sun. It was a little after midday, and I hadn't gotten $50. I couldn't go back to where I was earlier, not after what just happened. I didn't want him to pass and see me again, and I didn't want to see his beautiful eyes. I took the box out of the trash and then ripped the corners open. I lifted it in the light and smiled. It was big enough for me to sleep on. I tucked the cardboard under my arms and walked from the back of the supermarket. The next thing for me to do is to find somewhere to stay tonight, since tomorrow I'll be on a bus to Washington, D.C. Washington had a high rate of homeless persons, and so it was easy not to be seen since there were so many of us. There was a children's park close by. It was clean and quiet. At night it was a bit dark, but it was better than the dark alleys or park bench. With a firm grip on the cardboard and my bag, I started walking in the direction of the park. I smiled when I saw the swings and the slides. It was peaceful and quiet, and no one brought their child to the park at night, so no one would disturb me when I slept. I walked over to the bench and rested my bag on it, then lay my cardboard beside it. I took out my overused blanket and placed it on the cardboard. I took out the almost empty bottle of mosquito repellent and sprayed it over my body. I had to make sure I used it every night, or else mosquitoes would torment me all night and leave awful red spots all over me. I placed the repellent beside the cardboard, then slowly bent down on my makeshift bed. I used the blanket to cover my body, then closed my eyes. Tomorrow was going to be a long day. I needed all the rest I could get. Good night, baby girl. I rested my hands on my stomach and smiled. I felt a small kick in response. I smiled. She wasn't a mistake or something I regret. I would have regretted not feeling this love consuming me. I love you too. Just before I could hit a deep sleep, I heard shouting, so I jumped up quickly, rubbed my eyes, and looked around me. 4 men were standing beside the swing having a heated argument, and I could hear what they were saying. "We messed up, big time," said the one who was wearing a hoodie. The one furthest away from him went up and punched him. His hair looked gold from where I was sitting. "We messed up?" "No, you were the one who didn't collect the goods. Don Giovanni is going to kill you. He's going to kill all of us," a short dark-haired one said. The silent one shook his head. "Not if we kill you first." He lifted the gun he was holding and shot the hoodied man in the head. I couldn't hold back the small scream as the man fell back to his death. The remaining 3 turned and looked in my direction when they heard the scream, and they spotted me. Every bone in my body was telling me to run, but I couldn't, not when the man was holding a gun in his hands. Not when he looked like a man who didn't miss shots. I trembled with fear as the men walked towards me. I bent my head, looking at the ground in fear. "You were not meant to see that," one of them said. "Lift your head." I ignored his command and kept my head down. I was afraid to lift my head to see the faces of the men who just killed their partner. "I said to lift your head before I lifted it for you," the same man shouted. I jumped at the loudness of his voice and lifted my head. All 3 men were hovering over me. I couldn't see their faces, because there wasn't any light shining. That was one of the reasons I chose this spot. It made me hard to spot, but I guess it wasn't that hard, because they spotted me as they turned around. The man with the gun was directly in front of me, looking down. "What are you doing out here all alone?" he asked. It seemed as if he was the one doing all the talking. He was, after all, the only one with a gun in his hands. I forced my mouth to open. "I'm homeless." There weren't any other answers than to tell them the truth. "Is that right?" he asked rhetorically. I could hear the slight amusement in his voice, and it made me tremble. Was he planning on raping me? I quickly nodded. "Did you see anything just now?" he asked, looking back at the dead body that lay only meters away. He knew I saw. Why else would I have screamed? I quickly shook my head. "No. I saw nothing. I was sleeping and I heard the gunshot. I didn't see anything, I swear." He nodded. "Well, too bad. I still have to kill you." He looked down at the gun in his hands and admired it. I shook my head and clasped my hands. "Please, no. I'm begging you. Please don't kill baby and me." "Baby?" he asked with a frown. I nodded and moved the blanket off my body, showing my 7-month-old belly. "Please. I'm begging you. Please don't kill me. I won't tell anyone, I swear, I won't. I'll leave New York tonight, please don't kill me." My eyes were burning, and my chest felt heavy as if it were filled with stones. I could no longer see clearly. All I knew I could think about was my baby, protecting her, and my mother. How would she react if she found out I was dead? I would kill her as much as it killed me every day thinking about what she did. How old are you? He asked, still looking down at his gun. My throat started to tighten as I answered honestly, 18. In my head, I was saying, I'm too young to die, but am I? People die at birth, some persons don't make it past 10, and I'm 18, technically an adult. Am I too young to die? Weren't the others too young to die also? Why are you sleeping in a children's park? My mother kicked me out because I got pregnant. Then no one will miss you when I kill you. I shivered at his words, my heart was beating so fast that I could hear and feel every single beat. He lifted his gun and pointed it straight at my head as he did with the man in the hoodie. It seemed like everything was happening in slow motion. I started to whimper. Please, I begged with my eyes closed. But it was no use, he pushed the hammer down. Before he could pull the trigger, one of the other men spoke. She's just a child, and she's pregnant. He sighed. If Don Giovanni hears about this, he will not be pleased. We don't kill women and children. I heard a chuckle coming from the one with the gun. That's because Don is a romantic fool. She saw me kill him. She will go to the cops. She's a witness. She deserves to die. And one day she will, but it's not going to be today, and not by our hands. She's homeless and pregnant. She's already suffered enough. Tochi is right. Let's take her bags, but don't kill her. We can't afford to have the Don beating us up on two things tonight. I recognized the voice as the short man. The man with the gun chuckled, lift your head and look at me when I talk. I immediately obeyed the order of the cruel man. You're one lucky girl. If it were up to me, you'd be dead already. He turned and looked at the dead man lying on the ground. Don't come back here. This park is ours at night. If I see you here again, I will kill you. He walked away without looking back. I watched as the short man grabbed my bag, placed it over his shoulder, and started walking behind his partner. The blonde gave me one last look before walking off with the other two. When they were completely out of my sight, I fell on the grass and poured out relief in a flood of uncontrollable tears. It was realizing that I was still very close to the dead man. I stood up quickly from the cardboard and ran as fast as I could without looking back. As I ran further away from the park, I couldn't help thinking about the number of ways my story could have ended. I couldn't stop the tears from falling as I walked on the cold streets of New York. I got a few looks from the persons passing by, but no one cared to stop and ask the pregnant teen why she was crying. I didn't know where to go, and I was too afraid to go to another park. What if the same thing happened, but with different results? I couldn't risk it, so I continued walking in random directions, taking unexpected turns. After walking for over an hour, I stopped and looked down at my sore feet. I had to find somewhere to sleep. I looked around me trying to find out where exactly I was, then stopped the sign going right. Main Street North. I suddenly remembered my conversion with my Udoka this morning. He lived on Main Street. I rubbed my hands at my temples and tried to remember the exact number he told me, but I couldn't remember. I whimper, then cross the street and start walking on the road, hoping and praying that I was going in the right direction. The road was still busy and cars were passing every minute. It wasn't too late, yet I couldn't get fear out of my mind. I kept replaying the incident in my mind, and I couldn't stop the tears or heavy breathing. Neither of them was good, because it was causing me an immense amount of stress and anxiety. But tears were as dangerous as walking for hours, not knowing exactly where you were going. My muscles and feet were hurting me, so I stopped and then slowly pushed myself on the dirty ground. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The tears were still falling from my face, but not as rapidly as they were a few hours ago. I opened my eyes at the sound of a car passing, and it was then I saw the number that I had been trying to remember for the past 45 minutes. I laughed between my tears when I saw the small letters Main Street North. I entered the apartment complex and started walking towards the lobby door, a million thoughts running through my head. What if he changed his mind? What if he realized asking a homeless girl to move in with him was a stupid idea? As I pushed open the lobby door, I saw a male receptionist. I walked up to him. "Good night, I'm here to see Udoka." I don't remember his apartment number, but he told me he lived here this morning. The older man around 50 looked at me from head to toe and frowned. "I'm not authorized to give you that information, Mississippi. Please, I need to see him. Call him, tell him it's Clara." I persisted, but his facial expression remained blank. "Mr. Udoka is not expecting anyone." I shook my head. "He's not expecting me, but he knows me. He told me to come here. I need to see him, please." I begged for it 10,000 times today. In the morning I begged for money. An hour ago, I begged for my life, and now I was praying to see Mr. Udoka. What a beggar I've become. "Miss, I'm going to ask you to leave." I shook my head. The tears were threatening to speed up once more. "Please, I need to see him. I can't go back out there." There was no way I could put my life and my baby in danger like that again. Not when someone had offered to help and give me somewhere safe to stay. The man repeated himself, ignoring the fact that I was a pregnant teen who had tears in her eyes and was terrified of going back outside. "Miss, I'm going to ask you to leave." I begged him again. "Please pick up the phone and call him." There must be some emotional bone in this man's body. He couldn't be as heartless as he looked. "Miss, I'm going to have to call security on you if you don't leave now." I could see he was getting angry by the second, but I couldn't stop, not when it meant the safety of my life and my baby. "What's going on here?" I turned my head, and my eyes met Mr. Udoka's blue enchanting ones. Mr. Udoka was no longer wearing his tailored business suit. He was instead wearing knee-length jeans, pants, and a white shirt. He looked as handsome as he did when I met him the first 2 times, but what was even more adorable was the dog at his feet. I could tell that the dog was a mixed breed, between a German Shepherd and something else. He was beautiful. His hair was black and soft. His tail was wagging, which meant he was amiable. The receptionist broke my thoughts from the dog as he spoke. "Mr. Udoka, I was trying to get her leave, but she wasn't listening." Mr. Udoka frowned at the receptionist. "Why?" "I told her to come here." He turned to me and saw the tears on his face immediately changed to concern. "What's wrong?" He let go of the leash and walked up to me. "Did someone hurt you?" I looked into his blue eyes, and then turned to look at the receptionist, who was too eager to hear my answer. I didn't want him to know about my business. "Can we talk somewhere else, please?" He nodded, "Sure." He took my elbow and pulled me in the direction he was coming from. "Come on, boy, it looks like you won't be going for a walk tonight," he said, looking down at the dog. The dog whined but followed behind us. We entered the elevator silently, and Mr. Udoka pressed a button on the wall. I didn't look up to see which it was, because I had to stare down with his dog. "His name is King." I lifted my head to meet the blue eyes. "Ugh." He looked down and pointed at his dog. His name is King. Oh. That's a weird name for a dog. In my small town, dogs were named after songs and cars. They have never called a title. It was new to me. He's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, mixed with German Shepherd. I frowned when he said that. Weren't Cavalier King Spaniels tiny dogs and German Shepherd big dogs? He smiled. I know. I had the same reaction when I adopted him. I don't know how his parents did it, and I don't care, because he's amazing. I gave a small smile at his words. It was obvious he loved his dog. Maybe he was, after all, just a regular man. Serial killers don't have dogs. Do they? We stayed silent for the rest of the journey. When the elevator stopped, he asked for me to follow behind him, so I did quietly. He stopped. Here is his door apartment, and he took his key out of his pocket and opened the door. I hesitated for a few seconds, then entered the apartment. This was it. I choose to trust this man with my life and my child. Trust him not to be a serial killer, a pedophile, or a baby stealer. As I entered the apartment, I looked around. The room gave away his bachelorhood. I heard as he closed the door behind me, and came to stand by me. Come on, and you shouldn't be standing on your feet so much. Without touching me, he showed me the way to the couch and asked me to sit down, and when I did, King came and sat right at my feet. I smiled down at the friendly dog, but lifted my head at the voice of his master. Are you hungry? Would you like something to eat? I nodded my head. I hadn't eaten since this evening, and walking around earlier had taken away all my energy. Yes, please. Is there anything that you don't eat or is not supposed to eat? He questioned with concern in his voice. Uncooked meats and eggs, cheese, milk, tinned foods, raw fish. I think that's about it. He nodded and smiled. Perfect, I hope you don't mind leftovers. Mind leftovers? I'm homeless for Christ's sake, I love leftovers. They were better than not having anything at all to eat. My mother cooked curry chicken yesterday, and she brought some for me. He moved away and started walking in a direction. My eyes followed him to his kitchen. She still treats me like a child, so she brings dinner for me at least twice a week. She's afraid that I will forget to eat. He ranted as he took out the dish from the fridge. He shared the food in a smaller container, then moved over. He lifted his head and looked at me. Is it okay to warm food in a microwave? I think I nodded. For the past 6 months, I have been buying meals from restaurants. I was unaware of the operations taking place behind those counters, but I couldn't be picky, and had no choice. I therefore consumed whatever I bought from the restaurant and whatever kind strangers on the street had given me. Why should I worry and be upset when I'm eating, when there are others in the world going through far worse? Being thankful is one thing that being homeless has taught me. I am glad for 3 things in life, my family, and love. Without love, it is impossible to find happiness again. That's all for today. To be continued. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss part 3, coming soon. Thanks for watching.